grandpa told me you lucky to have one friend. Situations in life coming, you gotta trust them. Found out many times in life you can't trust men. So I rolled solo, that process was an adjustment. Friends let you down, not around when you needing them. Only here to take like a child, got you feeding them. Better off leaving them like salt, that's the seasoning. Killing black people, that sugar really depleting them. Knowledge over ignorance, rising above predicaments. Fighting for equality, speaking for all the innocence. These drugs they've been giving us, turning our people vigilant. Innocent dissidents, violence is coming imminent. Gotta fall a couple times to learn the lessons faster. Thinking will it matter if I skip a couple chapters? This life that I'm after got me climbing up the ladder. Won't be another rapper, bankrupt with the chapter. On another mission to get rich, it's big chips. Air past the crown on solid ground, the kid slips. On another level, these devils can't block the business. The kid get psycho with a rifle, get your wig split. Change the game passively in the back, so happily. Jersey. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Man, it's a beautiful day today, September 15th. I want to have a conversation with everybody today. I want to talk. I want to know your feelings and your thoughts on just this issue that we have here in the community. There's a lot of feelings about the Jackson County mugshot page. We are going to share some of our viewers and some of our followers' comments on it, and we want to hear what you have to say. So if you would like to join the program today, please feel free to comment, and we can send you a link to bring you on. Now, today, I was just scrolling, this morning like I normally do, and I seen basically a post on the Jackson County Mugshots page, and I mean, I'll let y'all be the judge of whatever the post or whatever, but I'm gonna show you the post. That's one of them. There's my grandson. Not that picture, but this one. So this was the comment that I had seen this morning. And to give you some context, I know that this is a person who was actually posted on the site. So this person had been accused of a crime, and their mugshot was placed on the post on the page. And you do the crime, this is the possibilities of the things that can happen to you, right? So I don't want anyone to think like I'm feeling sorry for people that get posted on there, because I am a firm believer in justice, right? I think that if you do commit a crime, you should suffer the consequences of that crime. But at the same time, do you deserve an amount of privacy? That's the question here. We want to know. I don't know. But I really want to know what y'all think. Because reading the comment here, she said, I am concerned that this website endangers and can ruin the lives of the people who you post. They are not proven guilty yet. Anyone who sees this assumes they are. Don't you have something better to do that is more positive? If people are really interested, they can go and look it up. In my opinion, if you had integrity, you would take the site down. It's a strong comment. And it made me sit back and think and really think about it, because I'm like everybody else, I follow the page. I'm just like everybody else in that way, in that perspective. I follow the page. The page has 7,000 followers. So I can't act like that I haven't scrolled the page and looked at the mugshots, because I have.
and I've always had mixed feelings about it, especially being someone who is formerly incarcerated and someone who works um, in this space of criminal justice restoration and criminal justice advocacy. I believe in the second chances of people, and I believe in giving people that opportunity to have a second chance. A lot of people don't believe in that, but that's okay. You're free to believe anything that you want to believe in. But my point is to get people to think about the comment actually is pretty valid in one way. In one way, I'm concerned that the website endangers and can ruin the lives of the people that you post, which could also get in the way of justice. Being a person who has experienced the criminal justice system and experienced how challenging it can be when you are innocent, right? And when you are innocent and you're trying to prove your innocence in a system that already sees you as guilty, it's already challenging enough. And to add this extra layer on here, I see that there's some unfairness to that in a sense. And let me be clear, like, yes, if you commit a crime and you do something wrong, yes, you should be punished. I believe that 100% wholeheartedly, that a person that commits a crime, you should be punished because, I mean, it's just clear, right? But at the same time, every person that gets arrested is not guilty of committing a crime, right? We have to have a presumption of innocence. And when we do things like broadcast people on social media before we even give them a chance to defend themselves, I see the slight injustice in that, right? Because I've been in that situation where I've committed crimes and I say I got locked up over the weekend or something, but I still have my job, right? I can still get bonded out and possibly go to my job and go to work, right? Um, this can ruin that possibility for a person. And when it comes to people that's trying to change their life, right? You on this wheel of change, you go back and forth sometimes, and sometimes you might make a mistake, right? And you might backslide, and you know that you doing wrong, right? But you're trying to get your life together, and you're trying to, you know, take care of yourself. But at the same time, you make bad decision one time, and you do something wrong, and now you back in the same rabbit hole that you was in before, back in the system. And for this person, their comment, the concern was pretty valid to me because, I mean, when we put somebody's life for everybody to see, not only is it embarrassing, but it's my grandbaby, y'all. But the when I see something like this, I think, like, what purpose does this serve? Like, how does this serve a purpose, right? To do something like this, what purpose does it serve, other than to embarrass, right? And to me, that's not justice, right? I believe that we should give people an opportunity to change their life gracefully. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I know for me, one of the biggest factors in me changing my life, not only was it inside the criminal justice system, I was in prison, but it was the officers along the way that I met. There were a lot of good officers that I met inside the county jail, and that I ended up gaining a lot of respect for. Men like Officer Reisner, he's not even a cop no more. He do like real estate, I think. Guys like Officer White. There's other guys I can't even remember their name, officers that were in there. Even like Officer Wickham, Big Wickham used to kick in doors, body slamming cats on their neck. Even officers like them, I was able to gain their respect, and they were able to gain my respect through our conversations and me getting to know them and them getting to know me as a man and understanding. And these men were influential in me changing my life because they didn't they didn't treat me with disrespect and just automatically write me off, right? These men would a lot of times try to counsel me like, you ain't supposed to be here, counts. Like, what's going on? Like, you gotta do something different, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got potential to do something different. And it was through my interactions with these officers and my conversations with these officers that a lot of times got me to look a different way and think a different way, right? So really what my conversation is wrapped around today is building community trust. Because at the end of the day, right, we understand how hard of a job it is that they have, right? We understand, well, some of us understand the mental stress, the mental toll that it takes to do that job, right? But I think what we as a community need to do need to do a better job at as working together and building that trust. And when I see this page, I don't think this is the way to build the community trust. So I want to know what y'all think, man. And leave me a comment. I want to know what y'all think. What do you think about this page? I've seen a lot of comments on Facebook. We can go through some of them. Let's go. We see a lot of people complaining that this page exploits individuals. However, if you download the JCSD app, it gives the same report without comments. So I understand that. And my comment to that is also we can also download anything from the Freedom of Information Act that's available out there, but we don't post a lot of those things. We can also download the child sexual predator list as well, and we don't post that either. I would feel the same way if we were posting child sexual predator list like that. Even though people have a right and they deserve to know, I just think that it's riling people up, and it's also destroying people's chance to change their life, right? I think that it doesn't give people the opportunity to prove themselves innocent because it automatically gives you the assumption of guilt. This page right here, sir, we're talking about the Jackson County mugshots. Ethically speaking, do you guys feel that this is ethical? We have one user has a comment here I want to highlight. Which says the page definitely needs to be taken down. It ruins a lot of people. How do you think that it ruins people? What are the ways are you seeing it ruin people? Have we seen clear examples of this yet in the community? Because I was curious because I know I've been locked up before. In my past, I've had 8 driving on suspendeds in my life. I've had 8 driving on suspended in my life, and I was a lot of times my license was suspended because of child support, me not paying child support. For those that don't know my personal story, I fought child support for over 20 years because I had a case that was put on me while I was in the military without my knowledge. I didn't find out I was on child support until my son was maybe 3 or 4, which the whole time I was sending money home, doing all of these things. We had an agreement that there was never going to be child support. They illegally let my son's grandmother set me up on child support without my son's mother's knowledge, which caused a rift in our relationship and my son's relationship because I thought she was lying. And for many years, I was paying child support to my son's grandmother, who was taking the money and using it for herself. So for many years, I fought the child support system because I didn't think that I should owe all of the money that they were trying to charge me. And I would a lot of times I would get my license suspended. That was the first thing that they would do because in New Jersey, that's all they could do, reaching me all the way here. So I would, long story short, I would go to jail, get caught driving, trying to go to work, right? And I would get caught driving and I would get locked up. The first time, you can get out on a PR bond. Second time, they might let you out on $100 fine, $100 bond. After you get to the second and third time, you get locked up on a driving on suspended. You get to talking $500,000 bonds. And then it got to the point where I remember one time I was working a really good job, man, really good job. And I got pulled over. It was the weekend. I had to sit in there over the weekend. Couldn't see a judge till Monday. And it ended up working out in my favor to where I still was able to keep my job. But I thought about people on this page, right? Now, if my job would have seen if my job would have seen me on the page, would I would have kept my job? He said, old mug shots. Yeah. This is what happens. So real life consequence that we seeing right now from the page. And I mean, I know what people are gonna say. I follow a lot of people, and a lot of people follow me, so I see the mindsets and I see the comments. Cause like I said, we was in the process of looking at these, right? Some people feel that it's negative. We have one comment here says just promoting negativity since it is public record and they still need to post it on Facebook. It's clear the objective is to try to humiliate people for personal gain. At least this Jackson Scanner page, we know who the admin is, respectable. Seems to be more informative. The admin of the mugshot page is anonymous out of definite fear. Out of definite fear. What do you guys feel about that? I want to know. I want to hear from y'all, man. If you want to come on the show, just comment, bring me on, and I'll send you a link, and I can bring you on the screen, and we can hear what you have to say. Because I'm really interested in knowing what the community feels about this, and it's because they're so. This is new. First of all, it's new. This page isn't very old. It just came out. But my fear is that a page like this can become monetized with, it's already got 7,000 followers, right? And it's following 24 people. I should look to see who they following. I wonder if that's even public to where we can see who they follow. But the point is, we're monetizing people in the worst way, right? And I think that if we're trying to build a community and we're trying to build cooperation in our community, that we can do it a little bit better, right? I think we should do it a little bit better. We got another comment, y'all. It says, it should be private to the community or neighborhood where the accused is living. Should not be public for companies hiring or housing. Yep. And only because we are to presume innocence, right? You're innocent until proven guilty. So what happens if I get put on the page, and when I looked on the page, it's crazy. Let me show y'all something, man. When I looked on the page, I seen something crazy. I was gonna look it up real quick. All right. What I saw in here was kind of crazy. It was like a common theme. I don't know if y'all noticed. Obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice. Only charge. Bond violation, obstruction of justice. obstruction of justice, obstructing, obstructing in a trespass, controlled substance, motor vehicle, obstruction, obstructing of justice, obstructing of justice, obstructing of justice, only charge, obstruction of justice, only charge, non-aggravated assault, obstruction of justice. Another one. Under the influence, under the narcotic violation, obstructing justice. What does that mean, really? Obstructing justice. Obstructing justice. Obstructing justice. Obstructing justice. Obstructing justice. Obstructing justice, only charge. Obstructing justice, only charge. Murderer. Obstructing justice, obstructing justice, obstructing justice. Obstructing justice, obstructing justice, obstructing justice, only charge. Obstructing justice. Obstructing justice, only charge. Obstructing justice, only charge. Y'all see a pattern? Y'all see a pattern? I'm taught to recognize patterns. I don't know what y'all taught, but I'm taught to recognize patterns. And I see a pattern of obstructing justice. What does it mean? It means taking action to impede, influence, or prevent a legal process, investigation, or proceeding from happening correctly. This is a crime that undermines the legal system and can involve acts like destroying evidence, pressuring or intimidating witness, lying to investigators, or interfering with work of police officers. To be convicted, prosecutors generally must prove the defendant knew of the government proceeding and acted with intent to disrupt it. So it can be every time. And we see it being charged every time. I want to hear more of y'all thoughts, man. I want to know what more of y'all think. Let's go to some more comments. Just but inmates and ex-cons definitely ain't humans. I like that comment because that's the truth. When you're a convict, it seems that, well, it's the truth that when you're convicted of a crime in America, you lose your rights under the Constitution. You lose them, and you lose a lot of them forever, because you can be legally discriminated against for housing. You can be legally discriminated against for jobs, employment, for work, for everything, right? And people don't understand the severity of that. And I could tell you that I've been free from incarceration for over 10 years. Over 10 years, I've been out of prison, right? And still today, if I put my name on the application with my wife, she gets denied. Still today, when my wife tries to get a job in the career field that she wants to be in the criminal justice field, still she gets denied and rejected because she's married to a person that was formerly incarcerated. Still today. You know how bad that it hurts when you give an apartment or a landlord $150 in application fees, and then you get denied just because you have a felony? You get denied just because you have a felony. And that's the only reason you get denied. Do you know how that feels, especially when your felony is over 10 years old? So I could just only imagine. I can only imagine. So I don't understand how someone has so much time on their hands to run that page. That's true. With all of the cuts, the budget cuts, you would think that, we're short staffed in a lot of areas. You would think that it wouldn't be time for that. So I feel like it might not even be a police officer that runs that page, honestly. Or it might be a friend of a police officer or somebody close. I don't know. We don't even know. I feel anymore you're guilty until proven innocent. That's a fact. I think that is, man. Says a lot of people has that charge. So is that a way to trump up charges so that you can run the sentences up? Is that a way to secure convictions? Because if I add those charges on there, right, now when it comes time to plea you out, right, because we know that our county don't fight cases like that. We know that. That was a thing that was well known in the county jail, is that if you hold out and take your case to trial, that they wouldn't waste their time on a lot of the petty trials, so they'll plead you out if you hold on, right? So is that a way to plead people out and get them to, you know, take whatever charge they want to give them? What they call trumping up charges? I don't know. He says, I want to know what's being done with Judge Wilson being drunk in court. Are they just going to push it under the rug? How many innocent people get sent to jail over his actions? That's a good question too. That's something that we have to talk about. I mean, only thing that they can push under the rug is if we as a community allow them to. I mean, that's up to us. That's up to us for sure. We have another person that says, it is freedom of information that you can easily get from the app itself. The comment should not be allowed. A young girl was arrested the other day and her job was tagged. Not cool, but it did give some background details as her actions from the petty ex, so the investigation by her work will be easy. But still, man, they commented at her job, man. You see, and that's what I worry about, is that our world is so ugly today. Society is so ugly today. We want to ruin people, man, and like we don't give people the chance for change, man. And that's what I'm mostly concerned about, because I've been that ex-convict that went to jail, and I couldn't imagine how I would feel if they put my mugshot all over there for everybody to see. Yes, it's embarrassing. Yes, I would feel the embarrassment and the shame from it, but would that make me want to change? I can't say necessarily that it would. It would make me develop an even further hatred for my oppressor. And I think that's what people feel. So, I mean, what can we do instead, man? I think there's something different we can do instead, man. So let's talk about it real quick, man.
The main thing is reaching out to the community and building trust within the community. Because if you got that trust within the community, if anything happens in that neighborhood at all, they gonna think about the officer that come in mind that's been friendly, that's been helpful, who could have took me to jail but didn't. I'm finna call him. Yep. And let him know exactly what's going on. So I was able to solve a lot of crimes that was in my area in Precinct 1 and throughout my narcotics career in Jackson, just from treating people right. You know, treating people right. Like I said, it's not all about putting the cuffs on, taking people to jail. It's just not. The main.
Man, I thought that was powerful. He said it's not all about putting the cuffs on people and taking them to jail, right? Because as a police officer, right, it's your job to protect and serve the community, right? To protect the community and serve. The community is the second line. It's serve the community. Does that serve the community, right? When we have a scanner page that already alerts us of any possible dangers that affect the community, right? Does that serve the community? I don't see it. I want to know what y'all think, though. For one, what I really want to talk about today, man, is building community trust through inclusive hiring, man. Trust is the currency of every community, man. Whether we're talking about local law enforcement, nonprofits, housing agencies, without trust, nothing else gonna stick. But see, here's the thing: trust just doesn't come like from policies or programs. it comes from actual people, the actual people that we hire. It comes from the personalities we reward. And it comes from the way we lead. Either we're building or we're tearing it down. See, I think that we have a personality problem. See, you probably heard like the old A and B personality types. Like for those that don't know, type A is ambitious, fast-paced, competitive. Type B is more reflective, patient, collaborative. Now, here's the issue that I see. Like in hiring, especially like institutions like law enforcement, military, firefighters, we tend to overvalue type A personalities. We want the person who's going to act fast, be results driven, the person that's going to take charge. And while those traits matter in that job, we lean too heavily in that direction. And when we do that, we send the community a message that like speed and control are valued more than listening and empathy. So this creates an imbalance to me that erodes trust. Because communities, especially like marginalized ones, aren't asking for more control. We're asking to be heard, to be understood, and to be treated with dignity. To be treated with dignity. Now, why this matters for me, right? Or why this matters for trust is really what we're getting at. The data and the science backs up what I'm saying. It teams with a mix of person. If you had like teams with mixed personality types, like both A's and B's, in the science, they perform 20% better in solving complex people-centered problems. And in communities where residents perceive fairness and balance in leadership decisions, trust in local institutions is up like 40% higher, I think, in those areas. In those areas where we team up both types of personalities, we see that they're better together at problem solving. We got a comment say, I don't think we should focus on what other people is doing. I believe we need to talk accountability of our actions and honesty. Honestly, it would be less to talk about. If you already know how the law works in Jackson, why would people put themselves in that position? I don't understand. I feel you 100%, 100%. But I also like to remind people is that just because you get arrested, we're supposed to presume innocent until guilty, right? Innocent until proven guilty. If I'm put on that page and I'm not even proven guilty, and then you find out that you ruined my life, you ruined my social life, I done lost my family, I done lost my job, so my income's gone, all of this, and then I end up beating the case. Will they go back and make a retraction? Will they go back and put my picture up and say, we're sorry, he did not do the thing that we thought that he did or she did? That's what's yet to be seen. We don't know yet because this is still new. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it, right? But the whole idea is, though, we want to build up trust in the communities, right? We have a problem right now. We have a problem right now with trust in our local community with the police officers. Right now, it's hard for police officers to do their job. They can't solve crimes without the community's cooperation. The community doesn't cooperate because there's a lack of trust. So my question is, does a page like this build trust or does it tear trust down, right? And what can we do to build trust? And what can we do to encourage like more community cooperation? Because I tell police officers all the time when I meet them and I see them, I tell them that we as a community wish that they would be more active and more present in our community and get to know us more because we are people at the end of the day and we don't know them. They don't come from our community. I wish that we would have more police officers from our community because even if you wanted to hire a police force that looks like the community, you can do so within Jackson. I mean, think about it. I tell people this all the time. When we think about diversity, we only think about like a couple ways, like black, white, this, that, there's that, and the third. But there's just so much to diversity, because that means you're really thinking about it. There's so many different types of people, right? I tell people all the time, there's a white man that grew up on First Street. He talks just like me. He talks just like me. He dresses just like me. He we can easily communicate together because he understands our struggles. He understands, Muhammad's going in there, Muhammad's going getting some chicken for $1. Why don't we hire him? He represents our community. He looks like our community, right? I think that we can do a better job at that alone, right? Could do more to build trust, right? So I want to talk about these personality types, man. If y'all don't know, like, about personality, let me show y'all real quick.
5 signs of type A people and type B people. They're competitive and feel the need to win at everything,
even things that aren't competitive.
They'd rather enjoy playing a game.
I'm selective about when to win.
They tend to base their worth on their achievements.
I want to achieve the most in the shortest amount of time.
They tend to thrive in a creative environment.
And I don't really stress if I don't get everything done on my to-do list.
They're impatient.
I may interrupt you a lot and can get aggressive.
They don't feel the need to rush all the time.
I'm generally pretty even-tempered.
They prefer to control their environment.
I get stressed if I can't.
They like to go with the flow.
I adapt to change well.
They like to be dominant over others.
I'm good at delegating.
You see, the traits of the type A personality, this is what I'm getting at, guys. That's the personality that we tend to hire the most in police officers, right? And this is what real diversity, when you look at real diversity, I was a certified diversity, equity, and inclusion trainer, so I got the little bit of it. But true diversity was looking at that there's all different types of people. Skip the just race stuff, right? Skip the black, white, women, men stuff, right? Skip all of those labels. I'm talking about DISC assessment, whether you're D, dominance, I, influencer, S for system, service, or C, compliance, right? Which area do you fall in? Me, I'm a influencer. That's where I fall in, influence, right? For me, I see a lot of things, and I dissect a lot of things, and I go off of emotions, and I don't complete task a lot, right? But someone who is a D in dominance, right? Those are a lot of our A-type personality people, and those are the people who tend to be police officers, which if you really listen to what she was saying, like, a lot of that you will understand why we need that.
They'd rather enjoy playing a game.
Competitive people.
I'm selective about when to win.
We need competitive.
They tend to base their worth on their achievements.
Basing their worth on achievements. Basing their worth on achievements. People that are A personality, they like to win. They want to be the best. And we need officers that want to win, that want to be the best at their job. So that's why we lean on that, that heavy dominance, that heavy discipline, having discipline to be trustworthy and honorable, right? We need that. So a lot of police officers are ex-athletes, right? A lot of them are ex-athletes, ex-jocks, right? What we call them, right? And the athlete is heavily influenced on competition, right? But there's also some downsides to A-type personalities, right? People with A-type personality tend to rush, right? They want to be in control all the time, right? So I see that there is benefit to having more inclusive hiring. See, we need to hire not just the sprinters, but the marathoners as well. In practical terms, like this means to pair the quick responder officer, that person that's heavy D dominance, that heavy A-type personality, that alpha guy, with the more reflective community type liaison type personality, the B-type personality. You bring in people who can de-escalate with patience, and not just enforce with speed. And the results you see is residents see not just authority, but they'll start to see humanity. They'll start to see humanity. And that, to me, will build that trust, right? Because I think that we don't need to defund the police. We need to fund them more. But we need to fund them more in the right areas. And this is an area that I see that we should be paying more attention to, is the hiring practice. I think that the training needs to add more cultural competency so that we can understand that not everyone responds to authority in the same way. We need more de-escalation training, trauma-informed practices for sure. And we need cultural competency programs like that acknowledge this. See, the research shows that when agencies adopt these strategies, the use of force incidents drop by 20 to 30%. And every incident avoided is deposited in the trust bank, right? And I tell people this is an easy strategy that you can easily adopt. If you hired from the community that you served, then you would have more care. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you lived in this community and was a part of this community, you wouldn't be likely to post my picture for the world to see. If you lived in this community and you came from this community, you would care about the people from this community. You would care about my mother. You would care about my father, what they thought about it. You would care about my grandmother because you went to church with my grandmother, because you lived down the street from my auntie. You would care. So, I mean, do I think the pages are all a bad thing? I don't know. I'm not one to comment on them because I feel too close to the matter. Because, like I said, I've been locked up for driving on suspended. Driving on suspended due to child support, right? Told you I've been fighting child support cases for years due to a child support case that should have never been put on me. I was in the military. There was no notice, nothing. And I fought that for years. And I fought it the wrong way. And I rebelled against the system for a long time. But imagine if I was to be put on there today. Imagine if Justin Count's face came across there driving on suspended, right? That would destroy me as a person. That would destroy me as a community activist. That would destroy me as a mentor. All of that, all because I drove on a suspended license, right? And people would feel how they want to feel about it. And I would have to be the one to take the punishment and the blame from it. But at the same time, it doesn't give me a chance to explain myself. It doesn't give a chance for me to have redemption. It doesn't give me a chance. It doesn't give me a chance to do nothing. It just gives the community a way to crap on me, right? If I was on there tomorrow, y'all would share that 1,000,000 times. There'd be 1,000,000 laughs at it. Like, look at the community service Negro on there. We thought you was this, that, and the third. I mean, maybe I'm tripping, but I don't know, man. So they need to do a program to help the homeless people so we have less homeless people. That park by Greenwood always filled with homeless people. Some sleeping in that park. Nobody going to take their kids to that park. That's a fact, man. And this is the problem, right? This is the problem, and that I see. And this is why I have a problem with the page, to be honest. Because we criminalize mental health. We criminalize mental health. It's people on there that I know, because from being a case manager, and we have HIPAA policy, so I can't name no names or nothing like that, but there are people on there that I know for a fact that have mental illness problems. I know for a fact that they have mental illness problems. And I could see through the charges, obstruction of justice. Yeah, Yeah, I know exactly what happened. This officer responded to a scene of this person having a manic attack. They couldn't handle this person. They couldn't de-escalate this person. So it escalated, and they ended up taking this person to jail for obstruction of justice. I know that for a fact because I'm a case manager. I've seen it 100,000 times. I used to work at Reed Manor. I've seen what we do to our mentally ill in this town. I've seen it firsthand. So no one can tell me any different because I've seen it. I know what happens to people when the mental illness community, the mental health community fails them. And I've seen it many times, and I wish I could tell you the stories, but I can't. I'm bound by HIPAA for privacy. But there are people in this town that I know for sure that when no one can deal with them because of the apartment complexes, like this is what'll happen to people in the Reed. They'll wake up one day manic, have a manic attack because these people are schizophrenic. They are, have all these types of traumas, substance abuse issues on top of that. So they wake up manic one day and they cussing, they yelling, they screaming, they perceiving violence, forced violence, or somebody calls the cops on them. Now people call the cops on them. The officers know these people from having dealt with them many times over and over and over again. So they train to de-escalate the way they train to de-escalate. And sometimes what we see is it ends up escalating, right? And then they end up getting taken to jail to calm them down, cool them off, and then they'll release them back a few days later because they know that they don't have the specialists, they don't have the counselors to deal with mental illness while incarcerated, especially while you're in jail. So what we do is we like placate the problem for a little bit. Like we'll take them off the street for a little bit, put them up, sedate them heavily with like Seroquel, Wellbutrin, all these types of little drugs. And then we'd kick them back on the street to do the same thing until somebody gets tired of them again. So a lot of people on the page have mental illness, right? And we've criminalized the mental illness. So now we've monetized shaming a community, in my opinion. We've monetized shaming a community. If that was my mother on there, or my father, I would definitely feel some type of way. There's only a few programs and people out there actually fighting homelessness. Community Action Agency, I used to work for them. They do a lot of fighting homelessness. But right now there's just no funding. There's just no funding. And I've been telling people the hard truth, and I hate to tell them, if you find yourself homeless right now, you got to really grind, because ain't nobody coming to save you. And I hate to be that type of messenger. But at the same time, I'm a man, and I'm a realist, and I understand what's going on right now, right? There is no help coming for you. You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself. Since I haven't seen that training being executed by the JPD at all, they do make situations better when they show up. They do not make situations better when they show up. A lot of people say that too, And like I said, I've seen situations being a caseworker down at Jackson Housing Commission, where people that I know that are mentally ill, that have been mentally ill for years, what happens is once you start using in the substance abuse, then your mental health, they stop engaging with you because they can't give you your medication while you're using. So a person will go off their medication for schizophrenia for 3 months, 6 months, whatever the case may be, and then they wake up one day and have a crazy attack. They get to throwing stuff around, doing things like that. Then, they get the police called on them and they go to jail for, having a manic attack. And that's the only thing that they did wrong, was they woke up and had a manic attack that day. Wow, we got a pretty interesting comment. He said, here is the public figure posting them, and it is information by a taxpayers funded Jackson County Sheriff Office run by Gary Schutte. Okay. So now we know the who the author is behind the page. So we now know the author behind the page. People ain't no joke on the internet, man. They say, here's the public figure posting them. And it is public information by a taxpayers-funded Jackson County Sheriff's Office, JCO, run by Sheriff Gary Schutte. Doesn't surprise me, man. But that doesn't do good to build upon the trust that I'm talking about, man, that we need in our communities, man. We need real community co-design and oversight. See, trust deepens when people have a seat at the table. Yeah, we got a civilian. We have a community oversight board for like when shootings happen, and when like police officer involved shootings happen. We have a community oversight board. Do y'all know about that? Have y'all ever heard about that? They actually make reports after their shootings. I do feel we need to hold people accountable to choices. Yes, I think so too. Make a better choice and you won't be on them type of pages. I say that myself too. I was raised by a father who was a firefighter. My grandfather was an Air Force veteran, and my great-grandfather lost his legs in the war. So I was raised by 3 strong black men who taught me, you know, if you do something wrong, you're going to pay the price. Don't do wrong if you ain't man enough to pay the consequences. And I get that. I get that tremendously. But I'm also a man that paid the consequences. I did my time, and I'm still paying for it for the rest of my life. I still get denied applications for housing. $150 gone. Got to watch my wife cry because we done wasted money and we can't get no better opportunities. I get slammed for jobs because I have a felony over 10 years old that's nonviolent. Slammed. So I get the accountability part and the whole people accountability, but ruining people's lives and their opportunities for change before they get to change, to me is too hard of a punishment. And also, it's not a police officer's job to enforce justice. It's their job to be the impartial witnesses. They're supposed to be the impartial people that's in the middle, that with no judgment, because there is no judgment other than facts. With a police officer, there should be no judgment other than facts. My guy said selling plates, selling candy bars will help funding for homeless. Yeah, it would. We need more people to do things like that, though. We need more. Substance abuse is addiction and a choice. It all starts in the mind. Yeah, the first thing is a choice. And after that, I think the addiction part, it comes with a lot of caveats, man. It's a lot of caveats, man. I once heard somebody say, man, and it's very graphic. I'm gonna see what I'm about to say. He said, I can't say it, but people under addiction, right? They suffer from a demon. A demon, a powerful demon. And this powerful demon can make you do things that you never would have thought you would have done. That you never would have done in your life. This demon, when they get a hold of you, it'll wrap you up and you'll become somebody totally different. So when it comes to those demons, I understand, like, nobody wakes up and chooses to be a crackhead. Like, I don't wake up and be like, man, you know what? I'm going to go do something strange for a piece of change so I can get high. Like, something happens to you a lot of times. Trauma happens and people don't have the tools to deal with that trauma. and we turn to coping mechanisms. Certain people's coping mechanisms are different. You know what I'm saying? Some women that go through trauma, instead of using drugs, they go for sex. So they make bad sexual choices. This is in the DSM and the psychology books. People that go through early childhood trauma, they can pretty much guarantee that you're going to either have an STD, or you're going to have an early childhood pregnancy, or you're going to make poor sexual choices when it comes to sex partners, because they've recognized that people who go through trauma make poor choices. So yes, it's still a choice, but due to your trauma has actually affected your brain's ability to make good choices. And I want to teach y'all about that too, because when you add trauma to the mix, right? When you add trauma to the mix, it actually destroys your brain's ability to learn, and it actually kills your brain cells. Let me show y'all.
Trauma and choices. I'm Dr. B, psychiatric nurse practitioner with over 20 years of clinical experience, and I created choice mapping. Choice mapping makes you mentally stronger, and I am here to share that with you. On Tuesdays and Fridays, we put out a video. Subscribe, like, share to affect the choices that you make. So let's start with sexual trauma. When you experience sexual trauma at a very early age, that is going to change the way you think about yourself sexually, as well as how you interact with other people intimately. And so if we talk about someone who is molested over a long period of time in their childhood, when they come of age that they want to begin having an intimate relationship, it becomes very difficult. Two things will happen, and maybe even at the same time: avoiding that intimacy, or being what we call hypersexual, and unconsciously believing that their worth comes from their ability to perform sexually. And so kind of the choices that are made are directly related to that previous trauma.
So that goes, and it's the same way for someone who is addicted to drugs, right? We don't wake up and say like, yo, I'm about to go have a baby. Yo, I'm about to do this. I'm about to go get high, right? Our trauma, right, affects our ability to make wise decisions. That's what I want y'all to understand. And a lot of people that have been through adverse childhood experiences, what we know as ACEs, they've actually been hindered their ability to learn. We've actually destroyed parts in their brain cells that develop. Like, man, let me show y'all, man. Let me show y'all. I probably play this a lot for y'all, man. But understanding how much it can actually affect your brain and your brain development, you know what I'm saying? You got to really understand it, like, and how much it really affects people's decision making. Because I was one of those people who was always asked, like, what the F is wrong with you? Why is you doing this stupid stuff that you doing? And the reason I was doing those things, I didn't know at the time, but I actually had learning disabilities from my trauma, right? When I struggle to find the words, I struggle to remember things, that's because there are actually black spots in my brain that have been deactivated due to trauma. Understand, man. This is real science.
Now, the exposure I'm talking about is not a pesticide or a packaging chemical. It's childhood trauma. Okay, what kind of trauma am I talking about here? I'm not talking about failing a test or losing a basketball game. I am talking about threats that are so severe or pervasive that they literally get under our skin and change our physiology. Things like abuse or neglect, or growing up with a parent who struggles with mental illness or substance dependence. Now, for a long time, I viewed these things in the way I was trained to view them, either as a social problem, refer to social services, or as a mental health problem, refer to mental health services. And then something happened to make me rethink my entire approach. When I finished my residency, I wanted to go someplace where I felt really needed, someplace where I could make a difference. So I came to work for California Pacific Medical Center, one of the best private hospitals in Northern California. And together, we opened a clinic in Bayview, Hunters Point, one of the poorest master's degree in public health. Hell. So I began reading everything that I could get my hands on. Health outcomes.
Listen to her now.
What they found was striking. Two things. Number one, ACEs are incredibly common. 67% of the population had at least one ACE, and 12.6%, 1 in 8, had 4 or more ACEs. The second thing that they found was that there was a dose-response relationship between ACEs and health outcomes.
This is what I'm talking about right here.
The higher your ACE score, the worse your health outcomes. For a person with an ACE score of 4 or more, their relative risk of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease was 2.5 times that of someone with an ACE score of 0. For hepatitis, it was also 2.5 times. For depression, it was 4.5 times. For suicidality, it was 12 times. A person with an ACE score of 7 or more had triple the lifetime risk of lung cancer and 3.5 times the risk of ischemic heart disease, the #1 killer in the United States of America. Well, of course, this makes sense. You know, some people looked at this data and they said, come on, you have a rough childhood, you're more likely to drink and smoke and do all these things that are going to ruin your health. This isn't science. This is just bad behavior. It turns out this is exactly where the science comes in.
Check this out.
We now understand, better than we ever have before, how exposure to early adversity affects the developing brains and bodies of children. It affects areas like the nucleus accumbens, the pleasure and reward center of the brain that is implicated in substance dependence. It inhibits the prefrontal cortex, which is necessary for impulse control and executive function, a critical area for learning. And on MRI scans, we see measurable differences in the amygdala, the brain's fear response center. So there are real neurologic reasons why folks exposed to high doses of adversity are more likely to engage in high-risk behavior, and that's important to know. But it turns out that even if you don't engage in any high-risk behavior, you're still more likely to develop heart disease or cancer. The reason for this has to do with the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the brain's and body's stress response system that governs our fight or flight response.
Now, pay attention. I know this is a lot of science talk, and I know it might go over your head sometimes, but there's real understanding to be had here when you understand that the actual development of the brain cells are actually destroyed so that they don't function in the way that the average person's brain cells would.
How does it work? Well, imagine you're walking in the forest and you see a bear. Immediately, your hypothalamus sends a signal to your pituitary, which sends a signal to your adrenal gland that says, release stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol. And so your heart starts to pound, your pupils dilate, your airways open up, and you are ready to either fight that bear or run from the bear. And that is wonderful if you're in a forest and there's a bear. But the problem is what happens when the bear comes home every night. And this system is activated over and over and over again. And it goes from being adaptive or life-saving to maladaptive or health-damaging. Children are especially sensitive to this repeated stress activation because their brains and bodies are just developing. High doses of adversity not only affect brain structure and function, they affect the developing immune system, developing hormonal systems, and even the way our DNA is read and transcribed. So for me, this information through my old training.
See, so with that bear she's talking about, that's dad when he come home drunk and he yelling and beating up mama and slapping her around the room. That's the bear she's talking about. The bear that she's talking about is when mama's addicted to drugs and she forget to feed you at night and she's coming home hied up, drugged up, and yelling and cursing you out and beating you for no reason. You know, that's that childhood trauma. And a lot of people go through different traumas, and then that causes them to make poor choices, right? It causes them to make poor choices. The science is clear on that, right? The science is clear on that. And mental health is real. So knowing that, when I see the page and I see this, I immediately go to my training and my understanding of mental health, mental illness, and knowing that a lot of the people that are put on display here are mentally ill or mentally challenged. I know a lot of people on there deserve to be on there. Some of them deserve to be broadcasted for what they do and stuff like that. But not everybody, man. Not everybody. I don't know, man. I just feel like as a community, we should want to build more trust. And we got to do that in a lot of different ways. And my fifth and final way that I think that we can build better community trust is through youth engagement. So if you want long-term trust, we got to start with the next generation. We need programs that bring youth and law enforcement together in dialogue. We need to cut like the negative perceptions down, at least by like 40%. Because right now, if you ask the child, especially a child that grows up in poverty, what they think about the police, I've done this several times with my youth groups. Ask the kids what they think about the police, and most kids are scared of the police officers. And that shouldn't be. That kind of saddened me when I heard that, because we should be wanting to encourage our children to become a police officer. Yes, you can rewire your brain. Actually, there's a lot of science into rewiring of the brain, actually. There's an old scripture in the Bible, and I know it's in the New Testament, so don't kill me, all my faithful followers, but I think it's in Romans, but it's, I think the King James says, be ye transformed by the renewal of the mind. And the actual Greek word that they use for renewal of the mind, it actually meant like to change your mind. Like you can actually just change your mind or change the way that you think. So there's a lot of science into that right now, changing the way you think. And I had to do a lot of that in prison, changing the way that I think. But there's a lot of help with psychedelics right now, mushrooms, DMTs. They're doing those to help actually rewire pathways in the brain that have become dead. So cells in the brain that were dead are now showing up alive after hallucinogenic treatments. So we're seeing the health benefits of using those type of psychedelics, the natural remedies that God gave us to help combat some of that stuff and actually help rewire the brain and how we think. So yes, there's a lot of science on that. But basically, here's the bigger picture for the cultural shift, I think. We got to stop rewarding only type A traits, that speed, that dominance, that urgency. If that's the only path to success, we need type B employees. We need them as well, because I think that they're going to help with that regulation, that de-escalating, being slower to act sometimes. We need that. Organizations that measure their outcomes with like the quality of relationships, the level of community trust, the collaboration that actually reduce harm. they're reporting that 22% lower turnover in their police force or in their organization. 22% lower turnover. Because when you add in more types of personalities, that gives that real diversity and that gives that real flavor. You know, you can't have too many alphas in one room. Like, it just don't work. Like, you got to have other people. You got to have betas. You got to have all these different type of people in order to have true diversity. So I think if we change the way we hire with police officers and included some more B-type personality people, I think that would be better overall for the community, and it will help build more community trust. Because right now, I don't think that having a page like this builds community trust. That's just my opinion. I don't feel that it helps build community trust. But I don't know, guys. Let me know what y'all think, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in with me today for another edition of the Community Soldier. If you're just now tapping in, make sure you rewind it, man. And if you want to be on the show, you got a story you want to tell, something you want to talk about, definitely leave us a comment. Let us know. We need to get type B people up to spend like type A. That way you get the best of both worlds. You will see a change. True? Yes. But the one thing about personalities and personality tests is like you can't help what type of personality you are. I just did the Leadership Development Institute leadership program from Michigan Community Action Agency. And when we did our DISC assessment, I realized that I was a person who was heavy in I, which is an influencer. And let me show y'all some of this stuff, man, so y'all can know what I'm talking about before we leave. So the DISC assessment is a self-reporting tool used to measure an individual's behavioral tendencies and personality traits. It's based on 4 factors: D for dominance, I for influence, S for steadiness, and C for conscientious. D, dominance, that's what we hire a lot of police officers that are heavily in dominance. They focus on results, assertiveness, and confidence. People in I, which is me, influence, their emphasis is on socializing, communication, and optimism. S for steadiness, they prioritizes cooperation, patience, and dependability. C for conscientious, focus on quality, accuracy, and details. So when you only hire certain type of personalities, that's only going to give you certain type of results. And we like the results that police officers give us for the most part, right? But the part that we're still struggling with is some of the other things that some of the other personalities are good at, right? So I think that in including all of the personalities, we're going to get a better understanding of these personalities, right? Because D and I, they're outgoing and they're people, right? But C and S, they reserve, and they really don't want to be around too much, right? But there's other areas that they're good at. People in S, they're great support people. They're stable, they're steady, they're sweet. They follow the rules. You know what I'm saying? C, people that are in C, they're heavy conscientious. They're in compliance. They're cautious, calculating, competent, contemplative. They're careful, right? But people that are heavy in D, like we see a lot of officers are, they're direct, they're demanding, they're decisive, determined. They're doers. But that also comes with some drawbacks. There's some negative connotations too that come with being a D. Right? We don't like to lose control, people that are in Ds. They don't like to be taken advantage of. They don't like to feel vulnerable. All things that are going to happen when you do that type of job. Right? So by including more personalities and actually doing what they call a disassessment in your hiring practice, I think that will build more community trust in itself. because having more personalities on your force will make your force stronger and better. Because like I said, there's just different type of people in the world. You can't help what personality that you have, right? But there's a extreme benefit of making sure that your workforce has all of these pieces represented. Because I'm an influence. I'm an influence, heavy in influence. My priorities are different from everybody else's priorities, for sure. I express myself heavily. Express myself. I'm present in every room. I'm encouraging. I'm collaborative. I would like to work together. I'm motivated by social recognition, group activities, friendly relationships. That's what motivates me. That's what motivates me. My fears, social rejection, disapproval, loss of influence, being ignored. Things you'll notice from people heavy in influence like me, you'll notice charm, enthusiasm, sociability, optimism, talkativeness, but I also come with limitations, impulsiveness, disorganization, lack of follow-through, right? But I'm great at accepting people. I focus on empathizing. I'm receptive and I'm agreeable. The person in dominance prioritizes getting immediate results, taking action, challenging self and others. They're motivated by the power and authority, competition, winning, success. People in dominance, they fear that loss of control. They fear being taken advantage of. They fear vulnerability. You will notice a person in heavy in dominance that they'll be self-confident, that they'll be very direct, forceful, and risk-taking. But they also have limitations as well. Lack of concern for others, right? Impatience, insensitivity. So those are the three main things that we see on this page, right? Those are the three main things that we see. Lack of concern for others, impatience because we rush to judgment, insensitivity because we don't think about the person or what they're going through. Whereas if we hired more people that were conscientious, they prioritize ensuring accuracy, maintaining stability, challenging assumptions. They are motivated by opportunities to use expertise or gain knowledge, attention to quality, rather. Their fears are criticism, slipshod methods like poor methods, or being wrong. And you'll notice people that are heavily high in compliance, they're precise. They analyze everything. They're skeptics. They're reserved and they're quiet. And their limitations is they overly critical. They have tendency to overanalyze and they isolate themselves. So those type of people don't generally choose to become police officers, right? But I think that there's a place for them in the force. I think there should be a place for them in the force because we have all different types of personalities of people. And I think that if we started to look at the different personalities more and started to understand that they all have a role to play and they can play a role in our force. So they still need to qualify them. Yeah. I think they do need to qualify still. And I think they would qualify still if we looked at the way and what we value. So that's where the training for cultural competency is. Like, not everyone responds to authority in the same way. That's why I said we need that de-escalation training, trauma-informed practices, cultural competency, even when it comes to hiring. Because if we hired the guy, like I said, if we hired the white guy that grew up on First Street or grew up on Lansing Avenue, he knows our community, he knows our struggles, our problems, right? He's qualified to do the job because we know we can train him. We know he has what it takes for those things, right? If we started to take a look at more different types of people, like you don't have to be a superstar athlete or you don't have to be super aggressive. A lot of the tests and a lot of the questionnaire and a lot of the psychology tests that they use in recruiting officers and training officers, they're all geared to type A personalities. And I said that, and that's because type A personalities are heavy in dominance, that power and authority, the competition, wanting to win, wanting to succeed, wanting to be in control of situations, always wanting to, very self-confident, But I keep saying those limitations to that. And those limitations come with lack of concern for others, impatience, and insensitivity. Can't talk this morning. That's what comes with that. So by adding more diverse candidates, it's not saying that we're going to skip over the more qualified people because we think that there's a different way to qualify who is qualified to work. Hell, they hired Kyle to work at MDLC, so I feel like they will hire anyone. I don't know him like that to understand what that means, Keisha. You got to explain. I don't know him like that to understand the context. But like from what I see, he's not like a type A personality person. And he thinks more. He's critical thinking from what I've seen of him. He thinks and he takes in the viewpoints of the people. And we see more type A personality people. They really just want to be in control. They set the tone and they set the standard type, So I don't see him as that type, but I don't know him like that. I don't know him like that really to comment. But, the bigger picture is, though, if we want the long-term trust to be built, like within the community, we have to trust the law enforcement 100%, and we have to feel like that they for us. And sometimes, like, when we see stuff like this, we don't think, like, that they for us. I mean, I just don't see the real purpose in it other than to humiliate and shame. But I could be wrong. I could be sensitive because I'm formerly incarcerated, because I'm a person that used to be on those type of mug shots. You could still probably search a mugshot or two of mine somewhere. But I'm a firm believer in a person is not defined by their worst mistake. A person is not defined by their worst mistake. A person is defined by a collection of things, a collection of choices. And sometimes one bad choice will define you in more ways than you want it to. But that don't mean that it's right. We have to give people a chance for change. And in order to encourage change, we have to care. We got to see them as people again. We got to see them as people again. You can ask my wife. When we drive around town, I see the people walking with their backpacks. And I say, look, this person homeless. Look, here go another one. And it actually hurts me, like, when I see homeless people, especially young homeless people. I seen a young guy last night on the east side just sitting on the ground in front of the U-Haul. It was late last night too, man. I wish we lived in a world where I could invite that boy in my house and give him a bed, but we don't. And it hurts me every time I see it. But we need more people that care about people. We need a community that comes together instead of shames, makes fun of, degrades. My problem with this is they always highlight the worst of us. They always highlight the worst of us. I threw a whole event where I gave away 50 Father's Day gifts. We gave resources for fathers to be better fathers. We gave resources for fathers that were great fathers to their children. We fed everybody that came. We rented a gaming truck for 4 hours so that the kids can come play. We rented mascots so that the kids can enjoy themselves and the dads can bring their kids. You think any of that was highlighted anywhere? You think they celebrated any of that type of stuff? No, we celebrate the worst of us. We highlight the worst of us. I have 5,000 followers, and it's funny because when I go on my comments and I look at certain people that comment, they never comment on positive things. They never comment on positive things. They only come when it's a negative thing to comment on or to add something negative to a situation. And that's the mindset of people right now, right? That's just the mindset that social media has created. So I see this page as just playing on to the mindset of people, right? They done monetized pain, shame, all the above. And as someone who gets paid from Facebook, I know what this is. I know what this is. It's a good engagement. They gonna get paid from y'all looking at this page. They gonna get paid from this page. Because we as people, we attracted to BS. We attracted to the negative. We want to see other people doing worse than us because it makes us feel good about ourselves. So when our homeboy get posted up on the page, we want to laugh at him. We want to share his picture with everybody. We do that because we want to make ourselves feel better about our shitty lives. We do that because we want to feel better about our shitty selves. But that don't make us better than nobody else. I don't see myself as better than anyone on that page that gets posted on that page. Because at any given time, let me look at y'all for real. Let me look at y'all for real. As a man, any given time, when it comes to my family or protecting my family, if I have to do something that you may not like or maybe against the law and it comes to feeding my family, that's a decision that as a man that I have to make, right? And it's a decision that I have to live with, right? But at the end of the day, it's my decision, right? At the end of the day, it's my decision. Because as a man, I'm going to protect my family. As a man, I'm going to feed my family. And how I choose to do it, that's on me to deal with those consequences. It's not on the world to judge me for my consequences. That's on God. So you can display my choices all you want. That ain't going to make me make different choices. Because at the end of the day, if a person is doing something out there to be put on that page, they're going to make that decision whether they on that page or not. Man, it's not going to change nothing. So at the end of the day, what does it accomplish? Don't accomplish nothing. Don't accomplish nothing. What y'all think about it, man? I want to know what y'all think. If you want to join the show, tap in, leave us a comment. We'll bring you on. You can come talk about it. And be on the lookout for the next episode of the Community Soldier Podcast, because we're going to keep diving into some real issues. I want to keep talking about real issues that we got, that we see in our community. Real stuff just like this right now that we see that's upsetting people. A lot of people have a strong opinion. One comment said, I followed for a week or two, but decided to remove it based on all the BS arguing and fighting I saw happening in the comment section. This actually came up while we were driving with the kids yesterday. I stated that I felt the page is being used to vilify people rather than just shed the light. I told the kids that are good people every day that make bad decisions that puts them in those photos. Not everyone in there are scum of the earth. It's not for us to judge them based on one photo. I recall seeing one woman whose eyes were crossed, and the comments people made about that were just terrible. That's not her choice to have that, but since she was in the mugshot, it was exploited. People are effed up. Man. That's deep, man. I don't understand how people could not care. Like, how could you not care? But I do understand, because I used to be selfish, man. I'm a Leo, too. When I first came here to Jackson 2005, I thought, man, oof, you wouldn't want to know what was going on in my brain at that time, how I thought of most people. I was extremely selfish. During those days, I could walk past a guy on the street and wouldn't care, whatever he had going on. It took a while before I got to the point that I am now. But now that I'm here, I struggle to understand people. How we could be so cold, how we could be so heartless. When I see a photo on there like this, and then the comments that come up underneath that, it'd be shameful. It'd be shameful, because I'd be thinking, what if that was your mother? Or what if that was your grandmother on there? How would you feel? My grandma got mental illness and they put a page on there because she had a manic episode. I wouldn't feel too great about that. And to me, that just doesn't build community trust. But thank y'all for joining me for another edition of Community Soldier, man. I'm going to tap up out of here, but I hope y'all have a blessed day. Hit me up on the polls, comment, leave me your reactions, what you think about it. Comment, we talk back.
Grandpa told me you lucky to have one friend. Situations in life coming, you gotta trust them. Found out many times in life you can't trust men. So I rolled solo, that process was an adjustment. Friends let you down, not around when you're needing them. Only here to take like a child, got you feeding them. Better off leaving them like salt, that's the seasoning. Killing black people, that sugar really depleting them. Knowledge over ignorance, rising above predicaments. Fighting for equality, speaking for all the innocents. These drugs they been giving us, turning our people vigilant. Innocent dissidents, violence is coming imminent.